Last time I showed you how I made the wooden part of my sofa. Today we're making the cushions in two ways, using foam and pillows. Towards the end of the video, I'll be exploring other ways you can make your own DIY cushions, so be sure to check that out. Let's get making! Okay, so in the last video, I honestly had fun making the sofa. I mean, I made things harder for myself by, hand sewing everything, but otherwise it was actually fairly straightforward and I really enjoyed the process. However, not the same could be said about these cushions though. I think this is definitely in part due to how big my cushions are, and that I don't want any seams showing on my cushions like these ones. But one of the biggest reasons is, well, my cushion is actually not a rectangle, which is a bit unusual. I looked everywhere on the internet but couldn't find a tutorial for what I wanted to do. I definitely mulled over this for a lot longer than I should have, but I did figure something out, so let me show you. For the main part of the cushions, we decided to go with foam. As you know from my last video, my sofa is a 4-seater lounger, so it is both very long and deep, which is quite a large area to fill. Here are the three things we're looking for. First, relatively inexpensive. Second, actually fits. And last but not least, long-lasting. Now, foam takes all three of those boxes, not to mention they're actually quite easy to get, at least here in the UK. Once you get on the website, the first thing you do is to choose a shape. For the back, I chose a rectangle, and for the seats, I chose a trapezium. Now, the reason for that shape is because I don't want any gap between the cushion and the back, and look at that, it's perfect. Once I've chosen the shapes, I typed in the exact measurement I needed, the type of foam I wanted, and it was cut and delivered to me within a few days. We specifically chose the high density foam rather than medium or soft because it's firm enough to last a long time, but still soft enough to be comfortable. And we've actually used the exact same foam for making a crash mat for climbing, so if it's good enough for that, then it's good enough for us to lounge around on. Now, the foam alone is already very nice. However, if you want to be extra comfy, you can add some throw pillows. And the good thing about that is you can get them at any home store that sells pillows. The only thing I'll add though is that if you want a size this big, which is 80 by 80 centimeters, you have to look around. For example, from IKEA, the biggest one they sell is only 50 by 50, so we ended up getting ours online. Now we've got our cushion fillings, we need something to cover them with. I hadn't realised, but there are a lot of options for upholstery fabric. I've ordered a number of samples online, but decided that really the only option was to go visit a fabric store in person. And that's exactly what we did, and that would be my advice for anyone looking to buy upholstery fabrics. And if you're lucky, you might come across the cutest dog. Oh, hello! It's your favourite dog, isn't it?
That's so cute.
You might feel like you're completely spoiled for choice, but the key thing here is to look out for something called the rub count or the Martindale test, because not all upholstery fabric is created equal. For those of you not familiar with this term, it's basically a test for durability. The higher the number, the more durable it is. And for normal day-to-day heavy use like a sofa, you want something that at least 25,000 rub count. What we ended up getting has a rub count of 40,000, so it should last a long time. I'm no expert, but it definitely feels and looks like quality material.
Actually, in the light, this one's quite nice.
It's so heavy. Are you happy?
Yeah.
And with that, we have everything we need to make our cushion, so let's get making. For the back cushion, I'll be doing something called a box cushion cover. Now, for these covers, there's only really one thing I'm looking for. That is, where possible, I don't want to have any seams showing. Now, this method is pretty perfect because the only seams are on the corner edges and the back edges. So from the front it's a very smooth and nice transition. There are two parts to the box cushion cover. The top part is what makes up the majority of the box part, so wraps around from the top and create those seamless edges on all four sides. And the bottom is what closes off the box. In this case, it also acts as an opening for the cover, so then I can take the covers off and wash them when I need to. To do this, you need to prepare 3 pieces of fabric, so let me pop up a quick animation to show you all the details you need. To make the box part of the cushion, you need to prepare a piece of fabric that is big enough to wrap around the top and the sides. So take the width and the length of your foam and then add the thickness times 2. Now, to make it into a box shape, you need to cut out a square piece from all 4 corners. You can do this by measuring out the thickness from each corner. So here I am doing it for one of the corners. I'm doing this on the underside of the fabric, so once it's all done, you won't be able to see any pencil marks that are left behind. Okay, now all we need is the bottom to finish off the box. And remember, because we want to have an opening to be able to take our covers off, we need to prepare 2 pieces of fabric. Now the length is just the length of the foam, we don't have to add anything extra to it. And in terms of the width, I think the opening looks nicer when it's not right in the middle, so I suggest going for 1/3 and 2/3. With the first piece, you just want to fold up the corners and sew it across like so. And magically you'll get something like a box out of this fabric. As for the other 2 pieces of fabric that forms the opening, all I did was give them a nice edge by folding it over twice and doing a straight stitch. So now that's all 3 pieces ready to be sewn together to finish off the cushion cover. Okay, this last step should be very straightforward. You just pin the fabrics together, sew a straight line all around the edges, and voila, you're done. But as I'll show you in a bit, I am not very good at handling fabrics. I never have been, even though I have a sewing machine. As I was sewing along, the first corner was fine, the second corner was fine too, but as I got to the third corner, they didn't line up. This always seems to happen no matter how careful I do the cutting, pinning, or the sewing bit. But regardless, I just kept going and it all worked out fine in the end. So I guess the moral of the story is, you know, it doesn't have to be perfect, just enjoy the process. And with that, I have my back cushion cover, but the question is, how am I going to close it? Now, under normal circumstances, you would use a zipper to close up the back. However, I don't have a zipper that long and I don't want to buy one. And it just so happened that someone had this reel of ribbon which they weren't going to use anymore. I think they said they were using it to prototype some lighting. I'm not really sure. But anyway, I've got a lot of ribbon, so what I ended up doing was cutting short pieces of ribbon, hand sewing into the back, and now I have some ribbon ties which I can use to close up the back with. It might not look like it's closing very well, however the 4 corners are actually a very good fit, so the ties are more for keeping the fabric together rather than keeping the cover in place. Okay, now let's do the seating part of the cushion. Now you might be thinking I can just do the box cushion cover again, but no, because this is a trapezium and not a rectangle. Basically, I don't know how the box corner would work for the slopey part of the trapezium shape. But the concept is the same, because if I don't want any seam showing on the front, I basically still need one long piece of fabric to go over the top of the cushion and then wrap under it. This reminded me of trying to wrap Christmas presents, because I was basically trying different ways to wrap this. When it comes to wrapping, there's no right or wrong way of doing it, only what looks nice. And I definitely spent way too much time trying to find that perfect one. But eventually I settled on something that's simple enough and looks nice. Now the question becomes, what do I do with the back? But actually, I'm happy with how it looks from the top, which is what matters the most. And the bottom, really, it's only there to hold this together. I thought about sewing another piece of fabric to the bottom, just like the box cushion cover, but honestly, I have no idea how that would work. And I can really only think of one other option. To tie it up. Yes, using the abundance of ribbon that I have. Now, all I can think of, it's basically like doing up a corset. I'm sure there's a more correct term for this, so if you know, then please let me know down below. And I actually really like this method because you can tighten it or loosen it depending on what style you're going for. I did go through a lot of ribbon though. I can't say exactly how much, but let's just say it's at least the width of the foam times 10, so that's at least 10 meters. In terms of the loops, I hand sewed some leather strips into the cover. I used leather because I wanted something that's a bit stronger than the ribbon, and I already had this leather lying around. Actually for many years, so it's good to finally find a use for it. But otherwise, feel free to use whatever is available to you. Here I am doing the last tie to finish off the cover. I have to say though, despite how it looks, it actually works surprisingly well. The only thing I would change though is, for the loops on the short sides here closest to you, I would have them closer together. This is because when the loops are far apart, there's not enough tension in the middle, so over time it can become a bit loose. Which, it's not an issue, but if you want a tidy look, I would suggest doing the loops a bit closer together. Okay, so as I'm editing this video, I've realised there might be a better way of doing this cushion cover. Basically, the front half of the cushion is still a rectangle. It's only the back half that is the slopey trapezium part. So I could actually still do the box cushion cover for the front half, sew it all along the bottom, and then for the back half, I just don't do the box cushion corners, leave them as is, and then I'll just tie them up. Use that as the opening for the back. Yeah, it sounds so simple. I think that might actually work. To tell you the truth, I actually did this cushion cover first and then the box cushion cover second. So if I had done them the other way around, I might have thought of this as I was doing it. But anyway, just an idea. Let me know down below if you've done it before or if you have any better idea. So let's get back to it. Okay, so those cushions were definitely more complicated than I thought they were going to be. But I guess if you're going to make your own sofa that doesn't follow a standard sizing, then you're probably going to have to make your own custom cushions to go with it. Now, in terms of the throw pillows, I did actually make my own covers also. You can definitely easily get your hands on some ready-made covers, but I made my own because, for one, I wanted to do matching, and second, they couldn't be easier to make. It's actually so easy that I was able to explain it all in 1 minute, literally. First step, measure your throw pillows. Now measure both sides because this small one is meant to be a square but it actually isn't. Step 2, you need 3 pieces of fabric. The first one is what you've measured from your throw pillow. For the next 2, split the heights into roughly 1/3 and 2/3 and then add an extra 10 centimeters so that they overlap. Step 3, you want to make sure they're lined up properly and then pin. Or you can use basting tape, the goal is just to keep them in place. Step 4, you want to connect all the pieces together. I did this by doing a straight stitch across all the edges. I love how straightforward these are to make. Unlike with the box cushion cover, I had 0 issues with these. I made 3 of them and all 3 turned out exactly how I expected them to be. Even the corners lined up, all of them, which I thought was quite an achievement. The 5th and final step, also the most important one, you want to turn it inside out. And in doing so, you want to push out all the corners. I do this using my index finger. This way I can really see what's going on and then manipulate it as I go. So you should end up with something like this. And that is how I make these throw pillow covers. Honestly, I probably had a harder time trying to wrestle these gigantic pillows into the covers themselves. But they're definitely worth it, they're so comfy. Looking back now, I should have definitely started these first. It would have been a nice easing back into sewing. Alright, so that is how I made my cushions using foam and pillows. Now, throughout the project, I've used the sewing machine extensively. And I know some of you don't sew, and also I promised at the beginning of the video that I'm going to show you some no-sew options. So here they are. If you're someone that likes your sofa to be really soft and almost like a hug when you sit down, then this first option is for you. That is to use throw pillows throughout your sofa, so for your cushions for sitting and the cushions for your back. Now obviously the most famous sofa for doing this is the cloud sofa. I actually did consider this instead of using the foam, but personally I just think there's not enough structure to it and I want to be able to sit as well as lie down when I want to. The second no-sew option is using a mattress. You might think it's weird, but traditionally a lot of the sofa cushions do include spring as their core, so the mattress acts pretty much like the same way. And mattresses come in a number of different sizes, so you can just choose the one that fits your sofa. My sofa is roughly 84 inches by 40 inches, so the Twin XL will fit that quite nicely. That is if you're in America. If you're in the UK, then the closest option would be a single mattress. And obviously with a mattress it's easy because you can treat it just like a bed, so buy the mattress protector, mattress cover, and you're good to go. Let me know down below which option you like best, and I'll see you next time.